afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the 19th Annual Jewish Film Festival of Fairfield County. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Nancy Schiffman, and I'm the Associate Director of Development and Signature Programs at the Stanford JCC. The Jewish Film Festival of Fairfield County has a long history of bringing current, award-winning films to the Fairfield County community, addressing issues of Jewish heritage, relationships, values, history of Israel, Israeli society and culture, and so much more. When it became clear that convening in person would not likely be an option for this season, we quickly pivoted to a virtual festival. And because of a wonderful, dedicated festival committee, co-chaired by Jennifer Kaufman, Debbie Lee, and Lisa Popper, all of whom I'm deeply grateful to, the show does indeed go on. During this continuously challenging time when all we crave is community and being together, we are grateful to be creating community here. Thank you all for being a part of that. The JCC serves the community in so many ways and continually seeks to respond to the needs as they arise. But at the core of it all, at the heart of it, it's the people, the relationships that are built and sustained for years. Even though we may not be able to be together in person, that feeling and sense of connection continues. And it's through virtual programs like the Jewish Film Festival, the Book and Author Series, online fitness classes, and in-person fitness center workouts, and swimming in the pool, and our J-Care food drives, and other volunteering opportunities. That is what keeps us bonded. And that is what makes us feel still part of a family, the JCC family. And it continues to be our virtual and in-person home away from home. I'd like to express my sincerest appreciation to our sponsors whose generosity makes community possible. I'd like to also especially thank the Friedman family and Garden Homes Management for their continuous support of the Jewish Film Festival since its inception 19 years ago. A special thank you to AJC Westchester Fairfield for their sponsorship of the festival. Please join us for the AJC-sponsored films Shared Legacy next week, a very relevant and timely film about the African-American and Jewish relationship during the civil rights movement through today, and Crescendo, about the Israeli-Palestinian relationship through the eyes of young musicians, both followed by valuable panel discussions with AJC experts and community leaders. These films are not to be missed. Join us also to commemorate Kristallnacht in partnership with the Jewish Historical Society of Fairfield County as we view the film Box for Life about Holocaust survivor Noah Klieger, an example of courage, optimism, and resilience, often referred to as the Jewish Forrest Gump, followed by a Q&A with film director, Noah's daughter, and moderated by our own Brian Krifscher. The film that closes our festival is a drama, When Hitler Stole Pink Rabbit, about a family fleeing Germany in 1933 during Hitler's rise to power, all from the perspective of 9-year-old Anna. To learn more about our festival films, or to register, or to become a sponsor, please visit us at www.stanfordjcc.org/filmfestival. We are delighted to have this staggering film, The Rabbi from Hezbollah, a part of our festival. It was a clear choice by our festival committee. The film sketches an intimate portrait of a man who, through tribulations, coincidence, and choice, is at the heart of some of the most daring and dangerous and secret operations Israel attempted in Lebanon in the 1980s and 90s, making Ibrahim Yassin one of Israel's leading spies. But before I introduce you to our guests today, I want you to note that your video and audio is turned off and the chat function is disabled, but we welcome and encourage any questions and comments at any time through the Q&A feature typically found at the bottom of your screen. If you haven't seen the film yet, it's still available to view until midnight tonight. And if you know someone who'd enjoy the film, they can still register on our website. With that, I am thrilled to introduce you to our guests today. It's my honor to welcome film director Itamar Chen. Itamar is a documentary film director. His first film, Teacher Irina, was the opening film and won the prize for editing at the 2010 Dak Aviv Festival. His second film, Night Shift, won the jury prize in the 2013 Haifa Film Festival. The Rabbi from Hezbollah is Itamar's third film. The film participated in the official competition of the 2019 Zak Aviv Festival and has won several awards at international festivals. And I'm very excited to welcome home our moderator for this afternoon, Yael Stolarski. Yael served in the Israel Defense Force as research officer in the intelligence unit for 3.5 years and finished her service in 2015. She then came to Stamford, Connecticut for 2 years through the Jewish Agency for Israel, working at the Stamford JCC as an Israeli shlichah or emissary, and led many diverse programs for children, teens, and adults about Israel. Yael returned to Israel to study philosophy, political science, and economics at Hebrew University in Jerusalem. She simultaneously continued to work for the Jewish Agency, interviewing and leading training workshops for potential emissaries. As Yael is finishing up her degree at Hebrew University, she's currently working as a project director at Tel Aviv University. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to welcome Itamar Chen and Yael Stolarski. Thank you for joining us, both of you. We're thrilled to have you.
Thank you, Nancy. Thank you for this warm introduction. And hi, everybody. I can't really see faces, so I trust, Nancy, that you're all here watching us. And it's a true pleasure being here. And it's the closest we have to seeing you guys and meeting with you from far, far away. And it's such a pleasure interviewing Itamar. I want to first thank you for this special film you've made. I'm very happy to be here interviewing you. So straight to business.
I'm gonna turn the floor over to you, and I will see you in a little bit, everyone. Thank you.
Sure. So we'll start, I think, from the main thing that comes to mind, the title of the movie. It's such a unique one. It's a special name, The Rabbi from Hezbollah. How did you come up with it?
I really like names of movies that have contradiction. Back to the Future, for example. I think such names create a great curiosity in viewers because they say something here does not make sense. Let's check it out. So that is the main reason.
It definitely doesn't make sense because when you think of the Hezbollah, you don't think of a rabbi. When you have a rabbi, you don't think of the Hezbollah. So it's really special.
Yeah.
I also read somewhere that you are drawn to stories about heroes in the skies. How did you come up with this specific story? What kind of made you do this project?
I came to this story by chance. I saw an ad inviting people to attend a lecture by a Hezbollah man who is today an ultra-Orthodox Jew living in Israel. As someone who gets up in the morning and looks for stories, it was clear to me that I needed to hear this story. I came to the lecture and I realized that I hear a story that is heard once in a lifetime, if at all. I turned to Abraham after the lecture, and from there we set off. And my main motivation was to try to understand this man and what made his make all the choices he made during his life. And understand what really lies behind the headline, The Rabbi from Hezbollah. And about the disages, I'm not necessarily drawn to stories about heroes and disages, but I'm very drawn to stories about where the reality is beyond imagination. I think if there is a story that sounds impossible, but it happened, a documentary must be made about it. And this is my first film dealing with such a crazy story. My first film, teacher Rena was about a teacher, and my second film, Night Shift, is about a cop. So it's the first time that I deal with such a crazy story.
Definitely a crazy one, and more than it's a crazy story, like you just said, something that you maybe, if you're lucky enough, you hear once in a lifetime. It's a story that we don't, we rarely hear about Lebanese people who suffer or who are under anything harmful of the terror organization in South Lebanon. And not a lot of people know, especially, Israelis do not grow up knowing the history of Lebanese people. But back at the time, at the 70s and the 80s, for those who don't know, the PLO, the Palestinian Liberation Organization, and the Fatah, which was a sub-organization underneath the PLO, they took over South Lebanon. They wanted to go as close to Israel as possible, and they took over Lebanese army bases in order to launch attacks into Israeli territory. And more than that, and I think what people don't know as well, is the fact that we had quite of a strong alliance with the Lebanese army. Back in the day, there was an army called the South Lebanon Army, which actually took courses with the Israeli Defense Forces together. Mostly Christians were in it in order to really prevent the terror organizations from getting over the southern area. So from there, I go to the next questions, and that would be, what made Ibrahim Yassin do what he did? What motivated him?
I think at the simplest level, he liked the IDF very much from childhood because they fought against his enemies in Lebanon, and of course he wanted to repay them for giving birth to his son. But on a more complex level, he was a man who had very complex relationship with his father. He felt unappreciated, and as he says in the film, I never felt like a human being. And suddenly he meets people who value him, and feels he's realizing his potential. I think he really wanted to thank the IDF for these feelings until it got a little out of proportion, and in time made him one of the top spies that Israel operated. But of course, it was not a planned thing. He did not read the spy books as a kid and said, one day I will be a spy.
Yes. So what, in order to get, I'm sure all of us want to know more about the missions. I don't know how much you can tell us, but we are also interested in knowing if there are any other missions that you can share at least a little bit information. And in general, how was it to get all this type of information, the footage, the stories that I'm sure were classified before you made it?
Yeah, Ibrahim was a very high-profile spy, and there were things we could only talk about in general without going into details. For me, for the movie, once he told the story of the killing of Abbas Moussaoui, that was enough. Because he was the most powerful man in Hezbollah. Once we know that Ibrahim caused his death, we can understand how deep Ibrahim was within Hezbollah. And before the film came out, I had to send it to military censorship. I remember being very scared of this moment because I thought they would now cut half of the film, but they were very fair and only dropped a few sentences in connection with the killing of Abbas Moussaoui. And about the footage, I received from Ibrahim stills taken in Lebanon, but most of the footage in the film is from Lebanon's archives. And there are also illustrations we shoot ourselves, all things related to his captivity, for example, and his long run at night. And the child who appears in the film is not Ibrahim. But a child I found in one of the archives, and there was something about this boy's sad look that made me realize that it might be worthwhile to connect him to the story of the goat killing at the beginning of the film.
So the goat, it was a question I was going to ask later on, but the goat had a real significance in the movie. It symbolizes something very special for him. Mm-hmm. What can you tell us about it?
The goat really has a lot of meanings. In the film, it starts with the story of the goat killing, which is actually Ibrahim's childhood trauma. And later in the film, the goats are constantly in the background of the story because he is very attached to them, and they are an integral part of Ibrahim's life. And as he says in the film, for me, they are more than human beings. So.
For some people, it makes sense. So what was his family reaction to everything that happened when they learned about his work? And did they know from the start? I did read somewhere that his brother also was kind of, I don't know, liked us Israelis. But how was it for his family?
When Ibrahim was a spy, the only ones who knew about it were his wife and father, because many times they had to cover for him. It had been several years since Ibrahim came to Israel until he could tell his children that he was a spy. I think on the one hand, his family was very proud. But on the other hand, they knew they paid very heavy prices for his work. When he first captured, his wife already knew he was working for the IDF. I think at that moment she realized how dangerous his job was. It's not a game anymore. But of course, she didn't know that she would soon pay the heaviest price possible with the killing of the baby.
Also curious about his safety, because this whole situation is a unique one. How was he protected from retaliation and things like that?
Ibrahim feels very safe living in Israel. As you saw in the movie, he is a very brave man. I guess the Israeli security system helps to guard him in all sorts of ways that I can't know about. But he's not afraid.
Yeah, we'll have to just stay and trust you in that. What is he doing now? Where does he live now? Maybe you can tell us more about his family. What is it like for them?
Today, Abraham lives with his family and 7 children in northern Israel, and not far from his home in Lebanon. He's still a shepherd, studying Torah. His wife and children also converted to Judaism. His wife and some of his children live a religious lifestyle. When they moved to Israel, he was only with 3 children. The eldest son was 14, and the other 2 were quite small.
Do the kids, they go to the IDF? They serve?
One of them went to the IDF, and he even got award from the president in Israel. So slowly, maybe he will be in his father big shoes.
For sure. how was it for him? I mean, we all know becoming a Jewish is not easy in general. So more even when you were a part of the Hezbollah organization, it seems like a very complicated process. I mean, in Israel, people are suspicious of everyone who is, not exactly Jewish as they know him. So was it a challenge for him, for his wife to convert?
Ibrahim is like Zikit.
It's this animal that changed colors?
Yeah. He fits in well in any situation he is in. That's one of the reasons he was such a good spy. He managed to integrate into Judaism and the Israeli society easily. He couldn't tell details, but people understand that he cooperated with the IDF, so they received him very nicely. He cooperated with the IDF in the early 80s. So from him to be a part of the people of Israel is something that feels completely natural for him.
I wish it was like this for everybody, right? That people would just come and be like, What was he like to interview?
I think Ibrahim is being interviewed in an amazing way. First of all, he's very charismatic, as you saw. Plus, he talks about things that happened a very long time ago, if they happened 5 minutes ago. And that makes things very dramatic. But I think the most special thing he has is a very special combination of toughness and sensitivity and regishut.
Sensitivity.
Yes. He can tell how he caused Abbas Musawi death, and after a few minutes, almost cry when he talks about his goat. So that's the thing.
And what made you decide to use this format where you are interviewing as opposed to creating a drama about his life?
I think Ibrahim's life today as a man studying Torah and herding sheep is not interesting enough to hold a film. It was clear to me that his previous life in Lebanon is, of course, the thing that is really interesting. So his life today occupies a small part in the film. This is why an interview would have seemed to me the right way to tell the story. Like I said, I felt Ibrahim was an excellent interviewer, so I had confidence in the format. Of course, there's also the possibility of telling the story as a feature film, but then no one would believe me that such a story happened in reality.
Would have been taken as science fiction.
Yeah, completely.
So, when I first watched the film, my reaction was a lot of mixed feelings. It's a really crazy story. It's something, just like you said, you can't even believe that it's a real one. But more than that, at least for me, it's not a narrative. It's not a story that people told me about how it was for Lebanese people living in Lebanon back in the day, being actually, suffering from the same terror organizations that would launch attacks in Israel. And I'm wondering what was the reaction here in Israel, and also if it was different from a non-Israeli audience reaction.
Fortunately, the reaction to the film are very good. People are shocked by the story and very excited about Ibrahim. A lot of non-Israeli and non-Jewish people watch the film, and I don't think there is any difference between the reactions. This doesn't surprise me because throughout the making of the film, it was very important to me that the film be universal. and not a film that only Israeli viewers can see.
And what about non-Jewish audience? Is there anything different that you felt when showing other audiences?
Not really, not really. But it was very hard work to make all the details and you know that the story will go with no that you can understand all the little things, and so it was a lot of job for us.
Yeah, that's for sure. There was a part when I watched it, I guess it's my the shlicha in me, the emissary in me, that thought that you did a really good job in advocacy for Israel when you told how IDF people delivered his baby. For me, I was like, that's a good story to tell non-Jewish audience or people who are like from far away, because until today, you know, if the IDF people meet someone in the border that need help, and it's true for Syria as well, with everything that was going on since the Arab Spring, we are always there to assist, including apparently delivering babies, which shocked me when I first watched it.
Yeah.
So what is the message you want your viewers to walk away with when they watch it?
I'm a little scared of the word message because I don't think a movie should convey a message. For that, you can write an article in the newspaper. A film should tell a story that formulates some kind of statement about life and makes viewers think. in the case of this film, I wanted to formulate thought about father-son relationships, about the political prices the little citizen had to pay, and also make viewers think that if such a story happened in reality, it tells how crazy the Middle East is.
It's for sure crazy. That
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
Anything else you would like our audience to know or they should be interested in hearing?
Something that happens to me a lot of times when I make movies is that I fall in love with the hero of the movie. In the case of Ibrahim, I feel that my meeting with him greatly affected my life. We became best friends. And to this day, we meet a lot and talk twice a week on the phone.
Makes me kind of jealous. I would like to join one of those phone calls, if I may.
Absolutely.
Do you have any other interesting stories from the process of making the film, from the shooting itself?
Ibrahim told me a lot of stories that you know I can't really talk about them. So it was very interesting to hear all this stuff. And so a lot of times we just sat and I just think to myself, I can't believe that I'm hearing all this all this stuff. So it was very interesting.
Lucky you.
Yeah.
Maybe you could tell us a little bit about your own film career. What about being a filmmaker appeals you? Why did you choose this career and not other?
Yeah. I strongly believe in the ability of movies to affect reality. I think the thing that most attract me to being a filmmaker is the ability you have to influence reality through stories and not by didactic means. For example, I showed the film to many high school students in schools in Israel, and many times they tell me that they were able to learn from the film about the relationship between Israel and Lebanon much more than they learn in history classes. So for me, this is the biggest compliment that can be. So it's a great motivation.
Nice. Nice. Okay. I think I'm gonna open it up for questions, and Nancy, the stage is yours. Let's see if people have more questions.
Sure. Thank you both so much. This was really, really wonderful. There's a lot of questions. I think people are really drawn by him as a person and his family and family reactions. I think that those were the bulk of many of the questions that people had. And I actually have a question to you, since you said, Itamar, that you've kind of created this very intimate relationship with him, and I can see why. And I wondered if I don't know, your own faith or your own belief in certain things has altered because of your relationship with him. Because to me, it seems like he really has a lot of faith in order to do these things and put himself in certain positions. I wondered how he has influenced you, because you do have this intimate relationship.
Yeah, I think that I'm not surely that I can put the hand about what made him affected on my life so much, but it's a man that have a lot of power, and when you see him, you can see that all the things that he passes in his life, and when you see him and when you hear all these stories, you think about your life, and it seems like, what? So I need to go and buy something. So what? So I think it's a little make me have some perspective about my life, and I don't really know how to say it, but he made me think a lot about my life, because all the things he passes in his life.
I can see why that would be, and I think for all of us watching it, it's very inspiring, and I think it does kind of question our sense of, how do we contribute? In what ways do we make an impact on the people around us, and our values, and what would we stand up for our beliefs, and how far would we go? I mean, those are wonderful questions and thoughts that I think that the film brings up.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to clarify something, because there was a question from the audience. He is not actually a rabbi. That was really just your way of engaging us with a wonderful title. Is that correct?
Right, yeah.
Right.
In Israel, the name is Ha'avrech me'Hezbollah. So I will translate like the student, the student, מה המילה האחרונה יעל?
It's like a yeshiva student, someone
who
put all his life for studying the Torah and learning it.
Yeah. But it was too complicated to this kind of name, so I said the Rabbi.
I think it's fantastic. I love it. I love that you came up with that. Somebody in the audience wanted to know a little bit more about the use of the scene, the mikveh scene. That was very striking. So tell us a little bit about your thoughts in using a mikveh as part of your filming.
הבנתי נכון השאלה על המקווה?
Or when he was swimming, he was underwater.
Yeah.
To us, it seemed like a mikveh. I don't know if it's meant to be a mikveh.
Yeah, it's a mikveh. Ibrahim told me that he has some place in northern Israel that he goes every morning, and he thought that it will be a great location to the film. And something very funny that we was filmed there at the beginning of February in northern Israel. It's a bit cold, something like 2 degrees or something like this. And and Ibrahim was a great soldier. And we told him once again, go to the water, and it was great, and it was a way for us to see the way that he lives every day.
And what do you think that means to him? His doing that if that's part of his practice.
I'm not exactly know, but I think that like someone is praying, that's the way for him to connect with God, or I don't know, but I know that he has to do it every day, and all his mornings start like this.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah.
Much of the audience are very, very concerned again about his family and how they reacted. And you may have said this, but I might have missed it, so I apologize. Does he have currently any connection or ability to talk with or speak with either his in-laws, his mother or father-in-law, or his own parents, or his siblings? You know, how is that for him?
Yeah, he talks a lot with his brothers, something like twice a week in the phone. His father and mother died something like 10 years ago, and in a strange way, the truth is that it surprised me too. The revenge of Ibrahim's family was quite minor. For example, his parents were allowed to be buried not where they want. And the explanation that Ibrahim gave me about it, that in Lebanon people are usually judged according to their actions, and there is not revenge to the family. So for me it was very surprised, all the story of the revenge.
Yeah, I think that our audience would feel really good to hear that, because I think by large and far that was the question here: are they okay? Are they okay? Yeah. So that's good.
He paid so much prices that is enough.
For sure, for sure. Yeah. When he was captured, for that long time that he was captured and tortured, what do you know of, because you may not know, what was the IDF's reaction, and were there any consideration to rescue him? Or that was another question from the audience, like what was their part in any of that, or did they do anything about that?
I think of course they knew about it, but they not really can do something about it. And I talked with Tzachi, the first one that works with Ibrahim in the 80s, the one who gave birth to his son, and he told me that the most complicated situation to someone who works with a spy is to know that your spy is now captured and you can't do nothing. And you know that it's a lot בגללך.
You're the one to blame. It's your fault.
Yeah.
He's there.
So he told me that it was in that situation, it was a lot of feelings that it was very hard to him to live with.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. There are a few more questions. I just am going to take a quick look. How old is he at this time? I think one of our viewers would like to know.
How old what?
How old is Abraham right now?
Yeah, he was born at 1963, so now he's 57. At December, it will be 57.
Wow, wonderful, wonderful.
He came back to Israel when he was 34. I'm 37.
Wow.
So that's a few minutes ago I told you something about perspective. So this is my perspective.
Right.
All the things that he did, and when he came to Israel, he was 34. You just can't believe it.
Well, that is, I have to be honest, because we've had many Israeli shliachim over the years, and I'm always amazed at what Israelis can do by the time they're 25. So, you know, that's it's quite remarkable. So I do understand your awe at his accomplishments. I think, let me take a look to see if there's one more question, one more burning question. You know, there's a question about education. Did he have any formal education, either prior or now that he's been in Israel? Is there any?
No, but as I told Yael, he can learn in very small time a lot of things. That's one of the reasons that he was such a good spy.
Right.
He knows how to write in Hebrew and how to read Hebrew. Excellent. When I just met him, I think to myself, what will be in the film? Maybe I will need to have someone who translates him when he will talk in Arabic. But it's just amazing the way that he can learn a lot of things. So it's not, maybe it's not formally, but it is autodidact.
Wonderful. This has been a fantastic conversation. Really, it's a joy to kind of hear the details, and it really rounds out our viewing experience of the film. So we are so grateful to the two of you. I know you're coming to us in the evening. I know it's daylight savings and there was a whole time change things going on, but it has been an absolute pleasure. Itamar, we wish you the best of luck and success, not only on this film, but all your films in the future. We hope to see and hear more about you. So in your next film, make sure that you connect with me. We'd love to host you again. And Yael, please know that always it's been a pleasure to see you, but also to once again learn from you. It is always a treat. And know that Stanford and the Stanford JCC will always be your home away from home. We're thrilled that you could join us. I'd like to thank all of you for joining us and being a part of it this afternoon. We hope that you'll be back for next week's film, Shared Legacies, the African American Jewish Civil Rights Alliance, with Q&A featuring film director, AJC expert speakers, and community leaders. I look forward for all of you joining us for other JCC programs, whether in person or virtual. I'm wishing you all good health. If you have any questions for Itamar or Yael, you can still email me and I will get you the answers because I know that they're happy to answer any questions you might have. Everybody, thank you again for joining us and looking forward to the day that I can see you in the halls of the J. Good afternoon, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.